And thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Today, we have our Youth Impact Forum. The forum is organized by the Erasmus Plus funded project Growing Youth Work, which is presented to you by Amis, who is the lead partner also on this project. At the forum today, we're going to discuss the topic of impact of youth projects. Today with me, I have four of our experts. We have Tilek Mamitova, who is experienced with both drafting project proposals and implementing Erasmus Plus projects. And she's also worked for UNICEF and has experience with international NGOs. We have Henrik Pedersen, who is a very experienced professional with over 35 years of experience in the social and educational work. He has worked with project management, social policy development, and has a big and strong focus on social inclusion, and have worked extensively with projects aiming to improve the lives of disadvantaged individuals and communities around Europe. We have Christina Boshkova, who is highly skilled with experience in capacity building, project management, coordination of EU projects. She has experience also with specifically environmental impact assessment, smart solutions, strategic energy planning, and sustainable development. And last but not least, we have Monica Elland, who is experienced with youth organizations and projects. Particular, she has been the youth representative to the 6th Euro Arab Youth Forum. She was the chairman of the board and active member of the European Youth North Denmark, and also part of the Progressive Alliance of the Socialists and Democrats in the European Parliament. We have a very experienced and very diverse panel today. So thank you very much all for being here. It's an honor for having you with us today. My name is Sisi Bak, and I'm the project coordinator of the Growing Youth Work project, and will be your host for today's discussion. We're going to start with a short discussion about the project and a small overview, so we introduce our audience to it, and then we're going to proceed with the discussion regarding the topic specifically. The Growing Youth Work project is a Erasmus Plus funded project, which helps organizations improve their project impact by teaching them about project impact assessment and its all parts, and provides them with a digital tool called the Growing Youth Tool, which helps them assess and improve their project impacts. You can see also a bit on the screen, this is our project website, and this is also how the login page of the tool will look if you try to hopefully log in and try it yourself. The project is accessible both towards the website and also directly with the tools page, and we have the links for both, so you're more than welcome to join and try yourself. The tool allows organizations to fill in the information about their project proposals and then assess the potential impact of their projects, which is done in the form of a survey. There's a questionnaire where they have to fill in. So once they fill in the information, the tool generates something called the impact snapshot, or a small overview, which is also a summary of their expected impact, and also gives the users, based on the questions that they have filled in, suggestions how can they improve their project proposals so they can increase the actual impact of their projects in all different aspects of impact. The users can also generate an assessment certificate. It looks something like this. You can see down on the page. And each time they actually fill in their questionnaire, they can generate a new assessment certificate with a new date, so they can also follow the progress. The idea is that they can fill in the first time as a baseline, then they can see the assessment that they get and all the suggestions for improvement. And once they improve, they can go back, fill in again, and they can see the progress and also what else they might improve for their project. The users are also supported with educational materials on all aspects of project impact assessment. This is done in the form of e-courses and additional materials that we provide to them. Some of the topics covered are impact on learners, economic impact, social, environmental impact of youth projects, the problem tree and the logical framework, impact forecasting, assessment, communication, and many, many others. They are organized in blocks of different modules and can be accessed both on the YouTube channel, but also directly on the website of the project. What type of impact do we measure with our tool and with the project? Well, we have focused on five major parts of impact. We are covering social impact, environmental and health impact, technological and educational, economic impact, and partner impact and stakeholder impact. Why did we decide to do that? Well, because these are aligning exactly with the priorities applying to the Erasmus Plus actions given by the guideline for the Erasmus Plus projects. Those are inclusion and diversity, meaning that the projects should promote social inclusion and they should aim at improving the outreach to people with fewer opportunities. We're also looking at environmental and fight against climate change. So meaning that projects should aim at raising the awareness about environment and climate change challenges. That means that the experts who evaluate the projects will take into consideration if the project aims at developing the competences and the various sustainability relevant of the sectors, or if they strive for carbon neutrality, or if they promote sustainability, sustainable use of transport, and so on. Then we have addressing the digital transformation through development of digital readiness and resilience. Here, the projects basically should aim at increasing the capacity and readiness of the institutions and the learners to manage the shift towards digital education and improve the skills. And then last but not least, we also have the participation in the democratic life. Here we need to look if the project addresses the citizens' limited participation in democratic processes and basically encourage them and teach them about the European Union and their values and social life and so on. So based on those, and also as per the Erasmus Plus guideline, we know that there for especially key action 2, unfortunately, we will not have enough time today to cover everything that the Erasmus Plus program covers, but we're going to focus on the key action 2 project, specifically partnerships for cooperation, because they're the award criteria. These are one of the biggest projects as well. And also the project that that today's forum is actually developed is also under KA2 Action, the Growing Youth Work project. So we know that the partnerships for cooperation have 4 main criteria. These are relevance, quality of the project design and implementation, quality of the partnership and cooperation, and the impact. Specifically for today, we are going to focus on 2 out of the 4. We have picked relevance and impact. This is because they're both directly under the scope of the project. And also, as you can see, the actual points, so the weight of importance that the evaluators will give to those sections is the biggest because they both have 30 points out of the 100, which are allocated when evaluators are looking at the proposals. So that's why we're going to look into relevance and impact. Last but not least, they're also very much related to each other. But this should not give you the impression that the Growing Youth Work project actually doesn't contribute to the other 2. It does. It's just those 2 are the ones that we're looking at more directly. When we talk about relevance and we look at the Erasmus Plus guideline for experts for the quality assessment, relevance is defined as the extent to which the proposal basically is relevant for the objectives of the priorities. They also look at it in different ways. For example, if the extent to which the profile of the or experience of the participants is actually aligning with it, meaning that, for example, if you have an organization which is specifically working with digitalization, this will be in line if, for example, there will be relevance if they're making some project which has digitalization within it. If they're working only with environmental impact projects, there might not be a correlation between the skills and expertise the organization has and the project that they're actually making. So they want to see a relation between that. We also have the extent to which the proposal is based on adequate needs analysis, the extent to which the proposal is innovative. So basically ensuring that there is a need for the project and also that there is some sort of innovation within the project. And also the extent to which the proposal is complementary to the other initiatives already done. So meaning that it's good if the projects could be continuation of activities already done to also ensure sustainability within long term of the project. Thank you for bearing with me with this small introduction and of the project and the topic. Now I'll give the word to our experts also. We have identified 4 questions in regards to relevance of the projects. Those are how organization can ensure their project proposals are aligned with the objectives. What strategies can NGOs and youth groups employ to identify and address the specific needs and challenges of their target groups? If, for example, you can provide maybe some examples of successful projects based on your experience, and also how can organizations effectively engage stakeholders, including the beneficiaries, in the project design phase. So if you have any suggestion maybe from your experience also. So we're going to go back to the first question. How can organizations ensure that their project proposals are aligned with those objectives that we looked into and priorities? I'll give the word maybe to Hendrik. Maybe you can give us some examples of your experience. What do we need to look for to ensure that actually we are aligned with the objectives of the program?
Very short, you can do it by having more people into discussing the project, and especially having the young people with some experts to develop the project and discuss whether the objectives are aligned with the priorities of the Erasmus Plus program. But also, in my experience, it can be difficult, and many young people go out of making a project because it's complicated. So they should have some mentor or facilitator to help them doing this. So I give the floor to, is it Monica? You are experienced in the European.
Well, I just wanted to add that obviously we should proposals and projects always should be developed if we have partnerships in collaboration, and if there is a need looking for external experts is always good, is always beneficial. We do look at the general guidelines for the program. That's a good source to look for what are they looking for. But we should also not forget about the role of the national agencies, because in some cases, when talking about, for example, inclusion and diversity as one of the program priorities, based on the overall principles and mechanisms at the European level, national agencies also provide specific plans that best address the needs of participants in their national context. And then at the same time, they are supporting the organizations working with these target groups. So cooperation, as you said, Henrik, but also looking at the specific guidelines and maybe support from the national agencies.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very valid point, because also not only like we looked at on European level and the priorities for all projects, but also we are correct that each country basically, or each national agency has their own specific also additional priorities that they have based on the national needs. So it would be good if also the proposals can look into those and make sure, because then they'll get a lot of points to targeting the specific needs of the country as well. So that's pretty valid as well. Yes, thank you.
But
Yeah.
also, can I say,
Yeah, of course.
also that the national agencies have these seminars and workshops which people could participate in. But I still, in my experience, young people very easily think it's very bureaucratic. And that's why I think that it's important to try to find some facilitators or mentors who can help them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that it's very important, yeah, to find somebody who actually has more experience with it, because also it's not that easy to understand and align what you have in mind as maybe, which is a great idea, but just to put it in a way that it actually aligns with what the priorities are and what the funding is about ultimately. Yes, thank you very much. The next question that we have are, what strategies can NGOs and youth groups employ to identify and address the specific needs and challenges of their target groups or communities? So how they can identify what exactly is the needs of the target group that they have? What can we do in those cases? Yeah, Christina?
Yeah, maybe another a useful technique would be to think about what would be the results of the specific project, and to think about how could they quantify, for example, some of these results, and to see exactly, yeah, how can they actually involve as much as possible the community around them, or other NGOs and other groups, whatever. It's a bit subjective depending on what the project is about. So maybe, yeah, this is one way to do it.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know, maybe Monica or Tilek, do you have anything to add? Like, what can they do to understand better what is needed? For example, when you start a new project, let's say in another country, like how do you know actually, like where do you start from? How do you know what is the need of this specific group that you work with?
I can add perhaps,
Sure.
CC, like from my experience in working with youth organizations, we will always discuss on a yearly basis what is our general strategy, what is our general approach, what is the focus we want to do, what are the primary activities that we're going to focus on the following year. So that's one of the ways that also bring us to the earlier questions about is discussing, right? We discuss what we see from our communities. And if you have a bigger organization as the one that I was part of, which was on the national level, and then you also have different local levels and groups, that's a lot of ideas that are brought on the table. And then you are selecting the most as you think are the most urgent, the most needed, right, the most targeted, and then you together also build the plan and action plan and activities, and then you obviously implement and execute it. That was our way how you were doing it, which actually turned out, I would say, quite okay, quite fine. We were always good. Our activities were also well received, and we never had a problem with participants. So it was actually needed, I would say.
Yeah, so it was a working way. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Hendrik.
Also, I think that to make it more hands-on, you can use social media to ask and to have a big audience, and in a direct way to test your thinking of what specific needs and challenges. But social media, I think, is a way to get broad and fast.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Like from my experience also, yeah. Oh, we have Tilek as well, sorry. Just go ahead.
No, you can.
No, that's fine, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think also from my experience, there should be some like according what project you're gonna do, focus groups can be conducted. And so like you have some like future beneficiaries, meet them and ask what are their how to say needs, what problem can be addressed. And the other thing is also there are a lot of reports actually already. You can also go and read like in certain area, like what kind of problems they have, and like because it's not like totally new thing, it's ongoing problems, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so just to recap, I think also that's very valid, that basically you can start from just literally making some research on different reports on the topic and the problem that you're trying to solve. As Monica also said, like try to look into your own groups, especially if your organization has national or at least regional outreach. You can also talk to the different sections that you have and make an open discussion about it. You can make some sort of surveys or focus group, and definitely implement social media, because it gives you probably the biggest outreach, especially when we talk about youth groups and youth organizations. That will be probably the easiest way to also have a bigger number of participants and more feedback, for example, on the need as well. Yeah, thank you very much. We can proceed with our next question. Maybe you can provide some examples of successful projects that demonstrate the high relevance to their target groups. What made them stand out? Like, do you have any project or activity where you are working on which is exactly targeting the needs, and you can see that this may change just because of it was so relevant for them from your experience? Or how did you know that it's actually relevant? Like, or how, as Monica said, for example, like we had some activities that you knew that you had like so many participants, so it seems that you actually hit the target there. So can
Yeah,
you give us some examples? What did you organize, for example, and how did you know that this is it? Yeah.
Well, our organization was also quite politically focused. So we had a lot of politically minded people, members, but also from the wide spectrum of the political. So we didn't have like one from one parties or so. And so then we also focus on the political and also different political events, because as we were also based in Denmark, but also in international organizations, there were also members from other countries which were not so much aware of the issues. So we organized lots of political debates, political cafes, and they were quite interesting. People were coming in and we were discussing different topics, different strategies back then on what was happening on the European level, what was happening on the national levels in different countries. I remember they were also organizing some missions to a different outside of EU, for the democracy fighters. So that was quite interesting. As I said again, because that was our purpose of our organization. Yeah. So depending on what is the goal of your organization and what strategies are you taking, then it's also obviously easier for you to decide.
Yeah, because I think like, yeah, of course, like you can just target the niche target group that you have. I can give also one example from my experience. We have provided also a vocational training tailored specifically to the job market demands of our specific group. And it had very significant support, because it was exactly, we knew already what the target group needs. So it was specifically built for them, and it had a very, very good outreach and then a very good results at the end for us as well. Yeah, thank you.
I want to just to add more to the project that we are working with, just because we were political and we had a very different crowd that we were part of the organization, and then we also were educating about the different rights, because as the European citizens obviously have different rights even if you migrate from one member state to another. So we did organize also debates about the elections and how to participate, if you can participate, where and how you do it, which is also very interesting, because many of the young people, because it was a youth organization, wanted to be active, wanted to be engaged. So when we also offered the platform for it.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds very interesting. Thank you very much again. Yeah, Christina?
Yeah, I just wanted to, another project popped into my mind. It was about, it was a digitalization project. And it was also related to like the environmental impact assessment and so on. And it automatically, by the idea of the project, automatically hit a lot of the relevant points of the program. And why it stood out, actually, I wanted to point out was, and something that Monica was saying about the political background and so on. Actually, why this project was so successful was because it was about the local community in a specific city, and actually the politicians, the local government was behind this project from the beginning, from the proposal stage even. So then when this materialized into an actual project, it ran much smoothly, and it was accepted much more than if you start involving the local government after the fact that you have a project and you have to just finish it. So it's very important to align actually with the goals of maybe not only your own organization, but a bit to a higher level. Like what's the national, to align with the national goals, but also to align with the local goals, because they might be a bit different. They might be more ambitious than the national ones, or not that ambitious, and so on. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very valid point as well. So we have to try to make sure that we do it on several levels, and if possible, align with all of them, or at least try to be very niche and specifically target one. Depends on the aim of our project. Which actually your comment is leading us to our next point of discussion, which is how can the organization effectively engage stakeholders, including the beneficiaries, in the project design phase. To ensure the relevance. I think this is what Christina started hinting a bit on, how we can actually engage the different stakeholders to ensure that we actually have higher relevance to our projects. Maybe I can actually give you some idea also on how do we do it in the Growing Youth Work project, because we took into account the needs of the target groups, not only on the proposal design, but also through the entire project implementation as well. We have consulted on every stage of our with our target audience in the form of surveys, discussions, and so on, some panels. We used also social media for polls and votes as well, and for also collecting feedback from our audience. We have made evaluations in the form of 3 piloting phases, which basically means that they have represented 3 of the development stages, from early stage, mid stage, and almost a finalized product. And for each stage, we have also made forms where we have asked our audience to just try, give us feedback, and we actually were flexible enough to take this feedback, change a bit the features or the scope of the project to ensure that our target audience and also beneficiaries are included and their views are included within it, including the tool and the courses that we are respectively doing. So we see that the more we engage them, and the more that they feel like part of this development process, the more interested and invested they are in the project in general. And I think this will also lead to more sustainability within long term for our project. I don't know if you've seen something like that in your projects as well.
I don't know if Henrik wanted to say something, because you were also raising your hand slightly in the previous question, but I wanted to just to add on Cici's comment, why I do see needs assessment in one of the ways that to include beneficiaries and also those participants. During the proposal, like during the planning stage of the project, right? I see sometimes, and maybe here Henrik can then answer in, I see sometimes maybe it's not always possible to engage them at the proposal stage. Is it something cases, for example, in certain constraints, time constraints or resources, when you are not able to involve the beneficiaries? I'm just wondering, because we are there's different when you have the project already running, then you can communicate with the beneficiaries and you can improve, adjust the scope and so on. But during the proposal preparation stage, is it always feasible to engage the beneficiaries?
It's possible to ask them, and especially it's important. Second leg of AMIS, we should talk about. We are working very much with people on the edge of society. It means disabled, vulnerable groups, and so. And they are difficult to engage if you don't ask them. So you should ask also in the preparation or having the knowledge to do it, and how you effectively engage stakeholders could be that we make during the preparation or planning of the project also concrete task what we expect from them, because very often we discuss at a high level and very how do we say, artificial level, or not a concrete, and then we lose these groups because they don't understand. For instance, we discussed the successful projects before, And Amis could mention, for instance, we had a project on React Digital. It means that we developed some programs for entrepreneurship for young people. That's one of the parts. And here, 1 year after the project, we are still having young people attending to the courses, and especially from the Balkan countries. So it's also example of that if it's concrete and it's usable for people, then it's easier to engage them.
Yeah,
Does
thank
it
you
make
very much.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Henrik. Yeah, that's exactly it. So basically try to be as specific as possible, especially when communicating directly to the stakeholders so they can understand the use basically from them, and then also that will reflect to the relevance for them as well.
I wanted to also add, because when we think of stakeholders, we also think our partners in the project preparation, right? And why I do see it now that this is certainly beneficial. I wanted to also bring some maybe statistics, because I am currently also working and contributing to the Growing U4 project when I look into different assessment criteria and so on. And I came upon this report from RAIN Network. RAIN Network is a research-based analysis and monitoring of European youth programs. It comprises mainly national agencies, and it contributes to the quality development of the European programs. And they published a report recently about the effects of involving stakeholders during preparation of proposals and then also during the projects. And the positive for me, what I think positive result is that over 70% of the project leaders have involved or conducted preparatory meetings, and more than 90% of these participants said that it was very essential to have the preparatory meetings and to discuss what is supposed to be the impact, what we are looking for, what we are looking for to achieve, and how do we get there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much also for the statistics. Yeah, it makes sense because it's only by discussion with them and involving them you can actually understand specifically. Because maybe even if you base it on research that you have done, this research is also a bit older data, so this could have changed by the time that this research was posted. So it's best ways to try to engage with them and just open these discussions so you can ensure that your project will be relevant.
Can I just add one more very quickly thing is that also leads to if it's possible actually to create a co-ownership within the project that you're preparing with the stakeholders. That is exactly what Monica and Henrik and you were talking about, to involve them in before and during the project and etc., but also to instill some sort of co-ownership within them, so they feel that they themselves are contributing and they are responsible for the delivery of the results of some of the results of the project and so on, which will also lead to prolonging this project in the future. So it's quite important to also talk about that this is not only one thing that we do for a limited amount of time, but it's actually something that we build for our community or for certain specific topics that we're working and so on, so we can build on top of that, so they understand that this is a part of a journey and not just one isolated project that we do.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. Yeah, that's very also valid. Yeah, because also these initial consultations will kind of cascade afterwards, because that will mean that probably they will be more likely to be part of our implementation stage and feel like this kind of co-ownership together with us for the project. So they're more involved in it and more likely to also help us with the sustainability of the project throughout time and when the funding is finalized. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, sorry.
To do that, can we also say that go into the project preparation as facilitator and not as director?
That is very, very well said. That's a very interesting point. Yes, exactly. I think that summarizes quite well. Yeah, we have a clap from Christina. That's very well said. Yes, exactly. So just be more like trying to find out instead of just telling them basically what they have to do. Just try to find out like what is the problem and figure out how we can solve it instead of just telling them this is what we're going to do for you, take it or leave it. Yes, thank you very much, Henrik, for that as well. Yeah, so this leads us to our next point, our second.
Christina had a hand.
I know she was just clapping and saying thank you for the
I was just supporting you. I was just supporting you in your
support for the nice input. Thank you. But yeah, the second work criteria which we are going to discuss is the directly under the scope of the Growing Youth Work project, which is impact, and also is leading the as per the Erasmus Plus guide for the experts on quality. You can see that they're focusing on looking at impact in a few ways. One of them is how it includes concrete and logical steps to integrate the project results in the regular work. So basically, is it actually including the results will be included within the project, the work of the companies? Then the extent to which the project has the potential to positively impact its participants and the organizations, as well as their communities. Then we look into impact as the extent to which the expected project results have the potential to be used outside of the organizations participating in the project on different levels, for example, local, regional, national, and European level. Then we have the project proposal includes the concrete and effective steps to make the results of the project known. Here we look at basically how to share the results with other organizations and public authorities and within the European Union funding. And then the project proposal should include concrete and effective steps to ensure the sustainability of the project. This is what we talked just a few minutes ago, basically ensuring that the project has the capacity to have impact after the EU grant has been finalized. In relation to impact, we also have 4 main questions that we're going to look into for our discussion. We have what are the key indicators or metrics that the organization should consider when addressing the potential impact of the projects? How can NGOs and youth groups leverage monitoring and evaluation tools to track the measure the impact? If we can share some insights on how to establish realistic and achievable goals in relation to the impact. And then also what are some best practices to maximize the sustainability of and the long term of the impact of these projects. So our first question is, again, what are some of the key indicators or metrics that the organizations should consider when assessing the potential impact of their project? So what do we measure? What key indicators or metrics can we assess and we should assess or have as part of our proposal to ensure that this will be a success? How are we going to measure that?
If I may start.
Yeah, please.
So, earlier we talked about the priorities, we talked about the objectives and how do we set them and so on. So once the priorities are well understood and the objectives are set, then we look at the assessing project performance against this set project objectives and the implementation plan that we have agreed on with the partners or with the stakeholders, the beneficiaries, and so on. And at this stage, it is also good to evaluate the activities and their impact at different levels, as well as the sharing and the use of the project results. And here I just want to bring back the good example Henrik was talking about, that his last project, when they capacity building, when they developed tools which were used way after the project concluded.
Yeah.
So that's also important when when your project aim is, or one of the impact is that you are developing something tangible that can remain and that is also used for others way after the project is concluded. So when you have such examples of these projects, then the key indicators perhaps may include the potential impact of the project on the participants and the participating organizations during and after project lifetime as well. And outside the organizations and other individuals directly participating in the project at the local, regional, national, or perhaps even European levels. So in terms of, for example, with the capacity building program, we look at the potential impact, such as improved capacities, certain levels, improved knowledge, or improved exposure to certain issues, needs, and so on.
Yeah.
That's my take on the
Yeah.
possible directions, how to measure what key performance indicators to choose for measuring impact of our projects.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. Would anyone, that was quite also covering most of the things, but would anyone like to add to that maybe? I can also give you some idea, basically the indicators, and as Monica said, that they vary like depending on the project objectives, of course, and the target outcomes. But common indicators can include knowledge, skills, behavior, attitudes among the beneficiaries, how much we improve the community and the organizational capacity of the companies. For example, indicators such as it could be increased school retention, improved employee mobility, for example, enhanced social cohesion, and so on, for the different youth projects. So we also have to try to be as specific as possible. Which leads us to how can the NGOs and youth groups leverage the monitoring and evaluation tools to track this and to measure the impact. So how can we use or benefit best from using different monitoring and evaluation tools to track and measure this impact? Because one thing is to set it, but then how do we actually know that we have achieved what we have done?
One of the mistakes we have made quite often has been that we forgot to make the baseline. So it's difficult to measure the progress, because if we don't, when we start the project or before we start the project, have a kind of baseline we can measure from, it is difficult to make how many more people were engaged if we don't know how many was before we started. So making a baseline is a very important thing.
Yeah.
And we often forget it.
Yeah, that's very valid point, because for us to know that we have moved from somewhere, we have to know where point zero is. That's exactly concrete. Yeah.
And
Just to add. Oh, sorry, Christina, go ahead.
No, it was just to add to couple it with what you actually, Monica, said for the previous question. It is of course to make a baseline, but also to, when setting a specific goal, then you can see how fast you're reaching your goals and so on, and maybe this way also you could overachieve your goals, and then for the next project that you're doing, then you know that certain things, certain KPIs that you have set are easier to achieve in that and this way, so you can actually learn from your monitoring and evaluation tools from your previous projects and bring it in this knowledge into the new ones. So yeah, it was just a thought.
Yeah, thank you.
Just wanted to add as well on this, that is very crucial, baseline, benchmark, or whatever, how we want to call it, to have a starting point. But when we talk about leveraging monitoring and evaluation tools, then obviously we should first, I would say, select the most appropriate monitoring and evaluation tool based on our project's objectives, right? The scale of the project and the context of the project. So whether it is a survey we conduct on the beginning and then again on the end, or whether it's a focus group, again on the beginning, middle, on the end, we should select which tool we want to use. And then we focus on collecting relevant and accurate data. That is important. And then systematically analyze the collected data and assess the progress. Identify trends and measure the project's impact against some established indicators or against the benchmarks or the baseline, as we talked about. So I would say these are the 3 steps. Select the tool that is most appropriate to your project based on your objectives, and then collect the relevant data, and then check it against the baseline and measure the progress, the impact it has.
Thank
And
you.
also, as Sisi said, it's important, I think, experience-wise, that we divide into tangible and intangible results. It makes it easier to make the indicators.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, they can also look into the Growing Youth Work tool, which we're developing, because it not only measures the impact of the projects and gives suggestions, but can actually also work as a monitoring and evaluation tool, because it keeps your KPIs, and then you can actually keep track, what Monica says, throughout the development of the project, all the way to actually when it's finished and so on. So you can keep track and ensure that you are hitting the targets that you have set. Talking about the targets of what we want to achieve, we can also talk about, like, how can you, if you can share some insights on how to establish realistic goals, because one thing is to set up a goal and ensure that we hit it, but how do we know that this goal is actually realistic? So how do we set realistic and achievable impact when we talk about impact goals within the context of the Erasmus Plus project? So how do we know that we are not setting ourselves like too short, or maybe we're not over promising that we're gonna eradicate unemployment for the whole EU, for example?
That must be Monica could say something.
I don't know. I mean, I know we had a lot participation in youth organizations, but that was quite some time ago. We always had the difficulty establishing, so how many participants should we aim for? That was difficult actually to us. So what is the good goal? What is the ambitious? So we wanted to be, as you said, ambitious, but also realistic. What is something we cannot achieve, and how do we reflect it in our report? We wanted to be as realistic as possible, but also ambitious.
Yeah, I would say, like, we can also start looking into what we also suggest in the Growing Youth Work project as some of our educational materials, is to look into the specific systems. For example, we have like the SMART concept, probably, like standing for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goal setting. So when we talk about impact goals, we have to make sure that this is very, first of all, specific and measurable. So we have like quantifiable, let's say, KPIs that we know that it's actually, let's say, number of participants, percentage of the people who we manage to improve the capacity on, and so on. And then instead of aiming to, as I said, like, for example, eradicate youth unemployment, let's say, entirely, we have to start with more achievable goals. For example, and more specific, like increase the employability skills of, let's say, vet workers within a specific percentage or target group. So try to be as specific as possible. And this will also give us the measure of being realistic, because if we just want to eradicate, like, let's say, unemployment in this example within the whole EU, within one project, that will probably not be doable, regardless of what we try to do within the specific project. So just try to do it as specific as possible for the target group.
The problem in Erasmus is also that the goal should be reflecting some innovative measures, and combining realistic and innovative can be difficult when you work with it. So one of the ways to do this is to have a kind of idea workshop or group discussion where you try to say what is realistic and achievable, but also how could it be innovative, because that's also requested.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to what we talked before, is the involving all the partners and stakeholders. Very important.
So exactly. So this could be also one of the added, let's say, values of it. So we also, they can also help us understand, because they would have more in-depth knowledge of, let's say, the specific sector or problem that we want to target. So they will actually be the ones that will help us understand if this is actually more realistic or achievable or not.
Chile could tell a little about this with the Ukraine project, where we try to involve the organization. Yes, Chile, you know all about the problems. Now you disappeared.
Well, no, in general, I think it's also at the beginning we are doing this risk assessment, isn't it? And then we have to also put in, I mean, we how to say, we discuss what kind of risk we have, and if they're really like, if they're gonna affect to our goals, then we have to reconsider like what we are what we're gonna solve with our project, isn't it? And if there is, I mean, we have to look like quite wider, like political situation, economical situation, and also like, yeah, in Erasmus, maybe like maybe young people want to participate in the project, but if they are not, how to say, if they have to go work, they will drop out.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't have time to participate. I mean, they have other stuff. So I think, yeah, before setting the goals, I think we should just look more wider, like, and again, talk to stakeholders. And honestly saying, I don't know about Ukraine, what you mean, Henrik.
No,
What
I
you
mean,
could say.
when the last project we had with, or
Yeah.
not the last, with Ukraine was that they wanted us to support young people with disabilities, but there were more than 14,000 they wanted us to support. And then this discussion about making it realistic according to what will be the funding and how could it be done in a war situation, and how could we engage and still make it sustainable, and how could it be innovative. So it's a lot of questions how to do it. That was my point. We had some experience that making it realistic is also a discussion with partners.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Because
in Erasmus also, I wanted to say that maybe if it's the first time you make a project, it's good not to have too many partners in the project, because then you can make more realistic the goals. If you have 10 partners, it's a hell of a lot of administrative work also, isn't it, Sissy?
yeah, that's a valid point. You know, it adds up another layer of complexity, I would say, like especially for non-experienced partners. I wouldn't suggest, but that's why also Erasmus has the different levels. For example, the small scale partnership, where the actual requirements are smaller. You only need 2 partners, so you can only do with 2-3 organizations rather than the bigger scale, which also gives you more realistic maybe expectations of what each partner has, and then you can start to learn actually how to assess what is realistic within X amount of let's say partners within the consortium. That's also very valid. Yes. Well,
And
thank
also
you.
in Erasmus, there is at least in Denmark, you can have some very small project which doesn't demand a lot of work just to get started. There's I can't remember, is it KA 154 or something it's called, and it's for youth groups to get started, to have some activities. So it is possible to start in a more easy way.
Yeah, exactly. Where you have like very specific, let's say, events to organize, and then work from there and make more and more complex projects when you get more experience. Yeah. Talking about experience, can you maybe share some best practices for maximizing the sustainability and the long-term impact of the project? So what you maybe talked about a bit, Henrik, that how the results continue after the project duration is finished. Maybe you can share some examples from your experience.
There's the one is that it's usable, and also that the tasks, for instance, for volunteering, are small and very concrete. So, I mean, we can't expect people to go into anymore to volunteer just going on, but making it usable and engaging the community around is the best way. And we have done that. We are still working for 30 years now with Romania. So it can be done, but it's very difficult.
I understand. Yeah, Christina?
Yeah, maybe something to add is again, it's very depending on what kind of project it is, but try to think about if there is some sort of a business case behind the results of the specific project. Is it something like a tool or something that you're developing that maybe you could sell, or maybe it could be continued to be used by different parts of society and so on. And another thing, in order to sustain to sustain your project and your results, is I'll just go back to my example with that digitalization project and local government support. Because if the local government, for example, is involved to some extent, or more parts of society are involved or are supporting your project to some extent, they would want to continue to use whatever you're creating, or whoever you're impacting after the lifetime of the project. So these are just two.
Yeah, I think
Thanks.
that also connects to what Hendrik said, that basically connect the amount of let's say stakeholders engaged with the usability, because if it's usable, they will actually continue using it afterwards. Sorry, Monica, you also wanted to add something.
Yeah, I just wanted to. My answer also intertwines what already was said, but just wanted to add something, couple of elements from my experience from the youth organizations that I was part of. I would say capacity building is also one good tool for project sustainability, investing in building skills, knowledge, sharing knowledge, capacity of youth participants, communities, because this also empowers them to do more, or to do implement simply the knowledge that they learned, they gain after the project is completed. And establishing partnerships, also Christina mentioned, with whether government or other organizations. I remember when one of our projects, we involved a number of different organizations. It was an event on diversity. We involved libraries and other organizations that were focused on multiculturalism and so on. So forging these partnerships on a local or on a regional level, and involving other community leaders to create a network of support, it's also good in long term, and to boost the sustainability of your project or the initiative. Involving stakeholders, again, that we mentioned already several times. This is the cultivating the ownership and the buy-in. So involving the stakeholders, beneficiaries, not only during the project preparation phase, but also throughout the project implementation. That also motivates them to sustain the project activities. What I also noted when I was looking through the requirements of the Erasmus Plus program, I see that depending on the action, applicants are often required to provide or create a communication plan. So how they are planning to communicate the results, the impact of the project. And then, so this is another way of, for the sustainability, how to do it, how to make the project live after the funding is done. And some example of such activities may include a dedicated project website. And I think we also have that for the Growing Youth work, or the wisely used social media campaigns, or presentation and talks as we have right now, or other tools that are developed, such as infographic videos, which of course need to be accessible and engaging.
Yeah, thank you very much, Monica. Yeah, it actually relates to one of the last points we had, like about tips about.
Cici, can I say concrete? People can also use the platform Up to Europe to make contacts and, for instance, get new partnerships, new interested partners.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that's also a practical tip or advice we would like to add at the end maybe of the discussion. We also had like 2 additional questions, like just to make it a bit more usable also for our audience. Like maybe if you can tell us, we talked slightly a bit about that, like what are the common pitfalls or mistakes organizations should be mindful of doing when striving to meet the relevance and impact criteria when they're doing both the preparatory when they're doing their proposal, but also in the implementation of the project stage. So if you have like any comments or any just advice on what to be aware of, like what common mistakes you have seen from others doing when they're thinking about the meeting of relevance and impact criteria.
Maybe I can start. It's on a very broad term, but it's usually, a mistake is to try to fit your idea into the impact criteria. It needs to be vice versa. Your idea, when you start developing it, the impact criteria and the things that you need to describe in regards to this should come up more naturally. So it's the other way around, because the idea is that what matters is not that you need to write something to fit a specific criteria. And if you're, for example, unable, because sometimes it's hard to fulfill all the impact criteria. So if you're unable to do that, maybe you need to stop and think about, okay, do I have within our organization, do we have the necessary knowledge to bring our project proposal to the next level so it fits within all the impact criteria? If not, maybe try to think about to dedicate, to ask your project partners, or to involve more project partners that are specialists in these different areas, so that they can help you actually fit into this impact, but not to start by trying to looking into the impact necessarily first.
Yeah, I think that's also very valid. Yeah, so basically you can also look at all the different types of impact, and that's also what we are trying to educate with the Growing Youth Work project. Just looking into all the different aspects of social, environmental, economic, and so on impacts, and try to see if you have actually taken into consideration those within your project, if there are any nuances that you can cover, and if you, as Christina mentioned, if you don't have the capacity and knowledge yourself, maybe that's how you can actually build your consortium. So it makes sense also why you have this type of partners, because they're the ones that can cover the missing knowledge that, for example, your organization has.
And one of the pitfalls is that many times young people, everybody is afraid of sharing their idea. They are afraid that somebody will steal their idea. And this is stupid, because if the idea is stolen, it's fine. Then they have the effect and get a new idea. But it's important not to be afraid to discuss and spread the idea and get the assistance. That's following up on Christina's point.
Yeah, I think also, that's very valid, because we've seen that with on the stage when you're trying to engage potential partners, that some partners might be a bit reluctant of explaining exactly what their idea is, just because of these scares of being copied, let's say, for example, or somebody takes your idea of how to do, because it also involves within the project. So it's probably, even if they take the same initial idea you had, like they'll make completely different project because of afterwards, like all of the research and talks with their stakeholders and the different partners they're gonna have. So it's just gonna evolve probably in a different way. But yeah, thank you, Henrik. We also have a second question, and I think we also touched slightly on that, but that was, how can organizations effectively communicate the relevance and anticipated impact of their projects to funding agencies and also to potential partners? So I think Monica was saying something about developing a communication strategy, and how to disseminate basically the idea about the project.
Yeah, but that was at the end of the project. What I meant specifically here, I think whether the question is about the proposal, right? I would say it comes with an experience. I would really wanted Henrik to tell me, how do you do that? I mean, you have enormous experience with Erasmus projects, so you tell us how to do that, how to effectively communicate the relevance. to the funding
my
organizations.
experience is that it's very difficult because it's different experts evaluating, and they are. So you write to somebody you don't know, and one of the problem is also how do you get your full idea into this? You have 3,000, 5,000 characters, so this is also difficult. I don't think that there's any easy explanation how to do it, other than, like Christina said, keep to your idea and make it short, and try to focus on the core. What message do you want to send? Tell about your project. I think that we very often, as Christina said, make it very artificial, and then we lose the idea.
So then I would say being specific, right, and to the point. We talked about the KPIs, the objectives. So being specific, what do we want to achieve? How do we want to get there?
Christina also wanted to add something.
Yeah, well, it's yeah. I just wanted to add. It's basically what you said, both of you, but it's more because sometimes we get lost in our many ideas and many ways of actually implementing the ideas and so on, which is great. It's exciting, but maybe we need to focus on what we want to achieve. So what is the result? So with all of this, what do you want to actually impact? Who are you going to impact? How are you going to impact them? So think about the communication should always, the idea should always end up with, what is the result of this idea? Yeah, and also, I mean, in general terms, I know this is in the proposal. I guess this is in the proposal phase, right? But also within the proposal phase, to connect it with what Monica was saying about communication strategy and so on, I think that would also give clarity of what are you going to communicate out into the world. So if you have a communication strategy, a clear way, you will have a website, you will have webinars or whatever it is, that you would like to communicate along the project. That will also provide an idea of, oh, okay, so this is how they, this is what they mean by that idea, and so on. So yeah, this is maybe another way to look at it. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Because the idea and the path on implementing it is not necessarily something clear all the time.
Yeah.
And as an idea, which is sometimes difficult, you can make the lift pitch. Try to go in the lift and explain the project in short, and be focusing on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's also very valid, because we're also, is what Henrik mentioned a bit, and I think also it's one of the common pitfalls, to be honest, is sometimes, especially unexperienced drafters, they will fall into the trap of trying to fit their idea within X amount of characters, and sometimes it just changes the way you want to express it so much that you just at the end are not able to communicate exactly what you wanted to actually achieve with it, and then just fall a victim of trying to fit just within the mold that they have as a publication.
Yeah, I just wanted to add from a practical perspective, a good way is to be asking yourself the right questions, finding and asking the right questions. So who do we target? Who is our target group? And how many of this specifically, if you think of quantitative KPIs, how many of them do we target? How do we target them? What is the result we want to achieve after, and what is the end product of it? Maybe some of asking yourself the right questions.
Yeah.
And then try to explain it in the lift, as Henrik said, quickly.
But also to complement that, ask why do we want to implement this project, so that you have this engagement shown.
Yes, I agree. I agree with this as well. And Henrik specifically, because in many of the Erasmus project, they not only looking for what is the impact on the beneficiaries, but also what for you as an organization. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that also reflects to, I don't know if you're familiar with the golden circle theory. We also talk about this a bit in in the materials, where instead of like starting from outside what you're gonna do, how you're gonna do it, and then why, you have to start the other way around. To start why you want to do something, you explain how, and then display what you're gonna do, because this is also the way, I'm not gonna go too much into biology, but it's how our brains are functioning, and then how we take decisions. So we want to understand why, and actually we follow people who can communicate why they're doing something and not what they're doing exactly. Great. But I actually, this was the last question we had for today. I would like to thank you very much once again for taking the time of all of our experts to be with us today and share their experience and knowledge. I'm sure that this will be very helpful also for our followers and stakeholders. And we have also the communication channels of the project, and also the project impact assessment network in Denmark and LinkedIn. So if you are located in Denmark and you're interested in learning more about project impact assessment within all of these different aspects and stages, please follow the group on LinkedIn. There are a lot of materials that we share there, especially specifically for Denmark, and different rules and so on. So you're more than welcome. If you have any questions regarding what we discussed today, you're also welcome to write to us via our email. Yes, I would thank again our participants from today. Thank you very much again for sharing your knowledge and experience. It was very valuable. And I would also wish you, a very nice afternoon as well.
Thank you, Sissy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.